Next Best Pictures YouTube channel. I am the owner, editor, and chief of nextbestpicture.com, Matt Neglia, and joining me today, I have Daniel Howat.
Hello. Great to be here.
Welcome back to the channel, Sir Howat. I understand that you've been in Las Vegas over the past week for CinemaCon 2023, and you have some very exciting news to share about what is coming up for the rest of the year, especially in the theatrical realm, because that's what CinemaCon's all about, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's been my first CinemaCon, so it was an awesome experience to kind of see all the studio presentations, a couple screenings, and just kind of hear more about what's coming up. It's a lot, It's all studios showcasing pretty much every 2023 release that they have. So, yeah, it's kind of this onslaught of information and trailers and stars and all these things. So, it's awesome. It's also a lot.
So you're there as a member of press, but really what they're doing, the studios, is they're catering towards the theater owners and exhibitors. So this way they can pretty much say, hey, don't worry, people are going to come to the theater because here's the content that we're providing essentially. Now, unlike some other presentations that we've seen, like for example, whenever Marvel does their thing and they announce like all these projects in the future, this is just for 2023. This was nothing about 2024 or beyond, right?
Well, actually, there was 2024 and beyond, only from a couple studios.
Okay.
So Paramount and Universal highlighted things 2024 and beyond, which was interesting. None of the other studios did that. Disney, Disney, Sony, Warner Brothers, strictly 2023. Not even like talking about future things. But then like Universal even started teasing the Wicked movie, which we can talk about more, which is a two-parter. First one doesn't even come out for 19 months. Second one
Wow.
is a year after that. So it's fascinating for them to tease that far. But yes, primarily 90% of what was covered is strictly 2023.
That's very interesting. Now you get to see footage before everyone else. You get to see trailers. There's a couple stars that do the presentations. So, how does it feel to get this much of a tease of these upcoming films? But maybe it's like a 20-minute reel or something like that, and then you kind of realize all of a sudden, oh crap, that's not the actual like full movie. Do you like have this weird sensation of like getting sucked in, but then all of a sudden being yanked out?
Yeah, absolutely. Pixar's Elemental was one they showed us. I believe it was 20 minutes from the opening through 20 minutes into the movie. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was another. I think it was 14 minutes that they showed us, and that wasn't even from the beginning. So that was just kind of like 14 minutes in the middle of the movie. And same with Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. They showed us. I think somebody clocked it at 20 minutes. I don't know the exact time.
Wow.
Yeah, just a big action sequence that's 20 minutes long basically. And so yeah, it's very interesting to have that weird experience of watching these really long clips basically. But it's a great, it gives us a really good taste of the movie and a taste of what to expect.
So where did they put you? What theater is it? Have you ever been to it before?
I have not actually. So the entire conference takes place in Caesar's Palace here in Las Vegas. So I was there covering CinemaCon. I also live in Las Vegas, so I am a local. So I do have experience in the city. But yeah, I've not been to. I've been to Caesar's Palace a number of times, but not been to the Coliseum, which is the big theater. It's Adele's theater for those who know her thing she's got going on in Las Vegas, her residency. Also. Who is it? Barry Manilow is also there. So yeah, it's an enormous, yeah, just an enormous venue. And so press section is on the third row. There's no bad seats in the auditorium. Not third row, excuse me, third level. There's no real bad seats, to be honest with you. I saw all the press screenings from there as well, which sounds far away, but the seats were great. And they set up, like you said, this entire convention. It's a convention for theater owners, for the hilariously named NATO, which is National Association of Theater Owners, not to be confused with the more important NATO on the world scene, but the National Association of Theater Owners. And so aside from the studio presentations, there's all sorts of vendors in the movie theater business space. So
Mm-hmm.
Coca-Cola is a sponsor. Dolby is a major sponsor, and you know, all the Real D, 3D, all of these companies who make seats or concessions or screen like projectors, things like that. They're all there, and so Dolby actually set up the screen in the Coliseum specifically for CinemaCon. It was gorgeous. That
Wow.
beautiful audio, gorgeous screen because it's coming straight from Dolby, set up for this convention. So it was a gorgeous screen. Everything that they showed looked incredible. Yeah, it was a cool space.
That's really awesome. I love to hear that actually. Anytime you go to a Dolby theater or anything like that, it's always for me sometimes even better than IMAX, honestly. It's
Yeah,
really incredible stuff. Okay, so let's go through here day by day what the experience was like. So, what was the first panel? What were the highlights and what did they show?
yeah, I have to pull up my notes because there's so much that like
Yeah.
off the top of my head I would forget like major things.
Well, how long would these panels like go on for?
They're all a little bit different. For the most part, they were about 2 hours, which is that's a long time, you
It's a
know.
lot of information. Yeah.
A lot of information, a lot of movies. You know, some of these studios have 23, 27 movies coming out in 2023, and they cover all of them. So yeah, it's a lot. So I do have my notes here. So forgive me if I'm looking at my notes throughout this conversation. But the first presentation on the very first day was Sony, and it was a pretty great, it was really high energy. You know, they were the opening night, so they also had to kind of hype up the theater owners in the audience. But yeah, the big thing that they really highlighted was Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. You can tell how excited they are for the movie. They know it's going to be big box office, and they're really excited. And the footage looks great. It was slightly
Sure.
unfinished, a couple shots here and there that weren't finished. But yeah, they brought out Kemp Powers, one of the four directors, I believe, and Shamik Moore, Haley Steinfeld, and Issa Rae as part of the cast. And yeah, it looks great.
Well, based on what we've seen so far from like the trailers for Across the Spider-Verse, it looks fantastic. Animation wise, it looks great. I'm hoping that the story can match the first film or exceed it. That's something that I'm not really getting a full sense of yet from the trailer. Right now, it just seems to be selling this idea of, hey, the Spider-Man that you loved from this film is back. More Spider-Men, Spider-Women, Spider-Things, all coming together. I'm excited for it. I really am. I'm just a little nervous because the first film set the bar very, very high.
Yeah, the hype levels are really high. It's got a lot to live up to, both from the quality of the first film and just from fan expectations. It's got a lot to live up to. But you know, the clip they showed us, 14 minutes, was really good. Teased it was very story driven. Not really any action in the clip that they showed us. So it was very much conversation between Miles and Gwen,
Mm,
and his parents as well. So teasing kind of the more mature characters, the developing relationship there. It was good so far, but you
yeah,
know, again, a lot could change when we see the final product, but I'm excited for sure.
cool.
You know, they also teased more from the Spider universe that they're creating. A movie they've already announced, but we saw the first trailer for Craven the Hunter. Um, and Aaron Taylor Johnson was there via video to announce that it is rated R. He
Mm,
said, "Fuck yes, it will be rated R." And the trailer was pretty brutal. I mean, it shows like Craven biting somebody's nose off and like spitting it at the camera. It's pretty gruesome, and I don't know how good it'll be, to be honest with you. The trailer didn't necessarily scream like, "Wow, this is gonna be incredible." Like it
yeah.
felt in line with Venom, which people are huge fans of those. I'm not a major fan of those.
No, I
But
subscribe more to the Deadpool boys style
yes,
of superhero violence and profanity, but Morbius didn't do it for me. Venom didn't really do it for me.
yeah,
So I'm hoping that they can capture something along the lines of what they did with those other two projects that I mentioned, because
yeah.
yeah, Sony's track record as of late, if for anything outside of Spider-Man, has been
I completely agree. I mean, but Venom did make both Venom films made a ton of money. And so, you know, if nothing else, at least, you know, they are catering to theater owners in this
right.
crowd here. So at least Craven will probably do the same. I guess the Venom movies weren't rated R, but so it'll do less box office than those films did, but
One thing I want to
visually
just
looked in
jump in
line with that.
here and ask you really quick, actually, regarding this whole thing is, would you say CinemaCon is just like one big giant like sales pitch meeting?
Yes, that's exactly what it
But
is.
what I find really amusing about that is this: what are the repercussions if somebody's presentation like doesn't get people excited, doesn't ignite the room on fire? Like, does anyone care? Probably not, right? What are the theater owners going to do? Just
No,
like
I'm
I
not
don't.
taking Sony films. Yeah, no.
Well, I mean, maybe you
Nah.
know,
I
but
mean, the reality is no. The reality is there's no
it
repercussions.
just feels like they were all there to just have a show, and
Yes.
there really actually isn't like any. To me, it doesn't seem like there's any real stakes so much, unless if somebody like
Yeah,
really did shit the bed with their
sure.
presentation.
Yeah, no. The reality would be if they had indie studios here, like true indie studios here.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they
Hmm.
had indie studios here to sell, like, please take this movie. I think this movie could be a big hit. It just
So
has to
instead of
find the
programming
audience.
it in like 200 theaters, let's see if we can convince them to get us in 900 theaters or something. Yeah.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So that's not what's happening though. So,
Right.
I think the way I was kind of thinking about it, like I said, I live in Las Vegas. The conventions here, I'm very familiar with that scene, even though I haven't been to many of the conventions. But what most of the conventions for like any random business that has a convention here, they often have like concerts that kind of cap off the event, or like some kind of like, hey, we're gonna do this for you because we want you to stay happy and be happy employees, whatever. And so I was kind of looking at it that way. It's like this is the entertainment for the convention.
Hmm.
So yeah, you're right, there's no real repercussions. It's really for the studios to just kind of say, hey, look at me, let's get some good press, hopefully, and build up anticipation, kind of more for press than for, excuse me, than for the theater owners in the audience.
Yeah. So what else
But
did Sony have?
Sony, I mean, they had things. We've got a lot of presentations to talk through, so I won't get through everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
They highlighted a Gran Turismo movie, which I didn't know was happening, which is actually a real life story. Which I don't know. We'll see. It's Neil Blomkamp, so who knows? We'll see what happens there. They also teased, Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney were there, got lots of press for being there together. Their whole spiel was just get out on stage and flirt, and they did. So they've got a movie called Anybody But You, raunchy R-rated comedy, and it looked okay. They tease like Insidious, which I'm not an Insidious guy, but that looks okay. One thing that I was very interested in actually was a movie called Dumb Money. It's Craig Gillespie's latest film. It
Hmm.
stars Seth Rogen, Paul Dano, who else? Sebastian Stan, Pete Davidson. I actually think that could be a stealth Oscar contender. It's about the GameStop short sale. I don't know anything about stocks, but but it was about the whole GameStop saga. And
Hmm.
we know Craig Gillespie's style at this point, so it's very much like The Big Short, kind of like Adam McKay style. It
Yeah.
looked funny. Paul Dano plays a YouTuber called Roaring Kitty. They showed us the first like 5 minutes or so of the movie. It looks pretty funny. I'm
Oh,
I'm kind of
I
into
like
it.
Craig
That hadn't
Gillespie.
been on my radar. Yeah, he's great. That hadn't been on
Oh
my
yeah.
radar. So it comes out in October. Good timing, Oscar wise. So
Probably a TIFF release,
definitely want to.
maybe.
Could be. Yeah, definitely want to keep
Hmm.
our eyes on. I liked that a lot. And then the last thing, kind of note, that they showed us was, of course, the trailer for Napoleon. So Joaquin Phoenix and Ridley Scott's collaboration with Apple TV, but they committed to a full-fledged release for Napoleon, theatrical release for
So they're doing this
Napoleon.
for both Killers of the Flower Moon. I'm talking Apple here,
Yep,
for Killers
yep,
of the Flower Moon and Napoleon, two
yep.
super studios, Sony, Paramount Pictures. Very interesting to see how that will shake out because Netflix is really digging their heels in, saying that they're going to still commit to streaming right now and not put their films in theaters to the extent that Apple is doing, and what Amazon has just recently done with Air and is continuing to do. So I think it'll be fascinating to see how these two films perform, especially when people get whiff of, oh, but I can watch this on Apple in like a few days, few weeks, whatever it's going to be. um yeah, that'll be interesting
It is
because
gonna be
it may not
interesting.
it may not pay off for them financially, but
Yeah, the interesting thing about both those cases is they're both very high budgets. And
right.
so it's not like these are $40 million movies that, can pretty easily make that back. These are big budget movies. And so, yeah, I think Apple's got the right idea here. yes, you can still make some straight to streaming stuff, and that's fine. But if you want to get some of these big names, big movies, and you want to drive buzz and earn a little income on the side as well,
Mhm.
pair up with another studio. You don't have to do it yourself. Pair up with another studio, release these big movies, and then host them on your streaming platform. Now, for both films, both Sony and we'll talk about Paramount with Killers of the Flower Moon in a little bit. They're not going to be streaming in a couple days after the theatrical release. This is going to be
Right.
a full-fledged theatrical window. So it's going to be, whatever, 90 plus days, probably longer, between the theatrical release and the streaming release. So, but for Napoleon, they showed a full battle sequence. It's exactly what Ridley Scott does best. It's some brutal action. It probably is rated R. They didn't say that, but the action, it could kind of go either way. It wasn't like super brutal, but it looked like brutal enough that I would probably guess it's going to be an R-rated film.
Did you see blood?
I think so. I think we did. It was like in like a blizzard or like snowstorm, so it was very kind of white, and so I'm not entirely sure, but
And did you see any severed limbs?
I think we did. Yeah, it was very fast paced, so that's why that was on the first day, so I've seen a lot in the past few days, so I
That's
don't
fair,
fully remember.
but like
But what I do
I
remember,
remember like Robin Hood having that PG-13 rating, and the
yeah,
scenes just didn't land at all. But
totally,
contrast that with something like Kingdom of Heaven or Gladiator, like
yeah,
when Ridley Scott can get grimy and dirty and like really highlight those action set pieces. He could make some pretty compelling stuff. So
totally. You can never place a bet on Ridley Scott. It could go
no.
either way. What I do remember from the clip though, is Joaquin Phoenix. He was barely in the clip, so we didn't see much of his Napoleon. But we did hear a few lines here or there because he was kind of directing a battle from afar, so it was mostly
Mhm.
focused on the battle itself rather than him. And he uses an American accent, which I don't know, just kind of struck me as odd. I don't know. Movies have trained me or trained us all for like 100 years to expect to hear a British accent, which I know still also doesn't make sense. But for some reason, my brain accepts a British accent as opposed to an American one. So I don't know. It struck me as a little strange. We'll see how it feels in the final. I certainly didn't get enough of his performance to like say whether it's good or terrible or anything like that. But it just struck me as a little strange. But we'll see. We'll see what how the rest of the film shakes out. But
Yeah,
that was
that's one
definitely,
that, like, on a technical level, I think it's going to be, probably a-okay for an Oscar nom or two here or there.
yeah.
It could get lost in the shuffle like The Last Duel did. But having Joaquin tied to it, I think also like helps tremendously because he's just such a committed actor, and he
Yeah.
he can really elevate, any material that I think that he's given. So fingers crossed on that one because I really want Ridley Scott to have, you know, I really want him to have his moment. I do.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. We'll see if this is the one or not. I kind of lean towards I don't know if it will be, but that's not
Yeah.
based on what I saw. That's just kind of based on hunches. So that's kind of the majority of what Sony talked about. So then day 2, we got Warner Brothers. The whole day was Warner Brothers. We screened after their presentation. We screened The Flash, which I'm sure
Mhm.
you've seen lots of the reactions, and it's good. It's good. It's a good movie. So I know it's going to be a
I
tough.
take that with a grain of salt. I do because I'm much harder on this genre than a lot of the people that were probably in that room, including yourself. So
How dare you,
I
sir? How dare you? No, I'm just kidding.
listen. I'm sure it's good. Like, but to what degree of good?
Yeah.
That's what remains to be seen for me.
Yeah,
But
my
yeah,
my reaction to it, there are people praising it as, the best superhero movie of in decades and all these different things. I don't want to overhype the thing. I don't think it's the best superhero movie since The Dark Knight. I saw somebody say that's crazy. That's ridiculous.
Mhm.
Is it just another superhero movie? Yeah. Okay. It's not like an Oscar play. It's not anything like that. But is it a damn good superhero movie? Yeah, it really
Yeah,
is. It's
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 like
a good
kind
one.
of, I guess, reminding you of what like phase 3 of the MCU probably was like when they were like at their peak in that era, where it was
That's
like
exactly what I would
banger
commit.
after banger. Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly what I would compare it to. Also, like tonally, it feels so much more like early MCU than anything from DC. Like it's a really funny movie while still having, big stakes, big emotions, those things. So in that sense, it feels like an MCU movie, and I mean that in a good way. So
I
yeah.
just really
Anyway,
hate the I just really hate the Ezra Miller of it all.
100%.
Can't I can't stand that, you know, if this is good and does well, you know, they should recast given their, recent history of criminality,
Yeah,
but it doesn't seem like that's the route that they're taking right now. So,
yeah,
it's tricky because if it's good, do we want it to fail? And who else does that impact that worked on it that has nothing to do with their actions? So that's a very tricky, thing for a lot of people to navigate, and everyone's going to have
it
to make
is.
that decision for themselves in the end. I'm glad to hear though that from what was seen, because I saw pretty much almost everyone, with the exception of like two people maybe, say that it was fantastic. It's a very entertaining, well put together movie. So yeah, this is going to definitely be a big conversation starter, I imagine, when it
Yeah,
comes out in a month's time.
we'll talk a lot more about it when it comes out in June. But yeah, the you're right. Warner Brothers is not do. They're kind of avoiding the situation with Ezra Miller. Andy Muschietti took the stage, and was praising Ezra and not acknowledging anything at all,
Yeah,
simply praising their performance. And look, that's what makes this conversation challenging, is because also it's a good performance, and but that doesn't negate any consequences that should be coming Ezra's way. But right now, as they proved at CinemaCon, they're ignoring it for now. So we'll
yeah.
talk more when it comes closer to June. But yeah, that's kind of the state for now. But elsewhere, honestly, one of the most memorable things from the entire CinemaCon, uh, laugh all you want, was Barbie. Okay,
Oh
so
no, I'm not laughing at all. I kind of expected Barbie to be a standout at CinemaCon this year.
it blew the roof off for me. So they had Ryan Gosling, Margot Robbie, America Ferrera, and Greta Gerwig there to introduce. They showed us kind of like an extended trailer, and just talk more about the movie. I am so excited. Greta Gerwig. I mean, I know, like, hot take, Greta Gerwig's movies are good. Yeah,
Right.
but man, the trailer they showed was so hilarious. I knew this was going to be funny, but like the entire room was just roaring with laughter. So I'm so excited. Yeah, it was very memorable, and they talked about the production design, which I'm starting to feel like this might be a lock for a
Starting.
nomination.
I've been saying that for a year.
Yeah, I mean, the production design is incredible. It's incredible, and they were saying how they were really highlighting the real sets, and
Mhm.
so that was awesome. So, yeah, it looks incredible,
Yeah,
incredible. So,
like I have no doubt. Like I've been saying now for a while, costumes, production design. I need to see the movie to go any further than that,
yeah,
because aesthetically, from what we've seen, yeah, it looks really eye catching.
yeah.
But beyond that, like from an award standpoint, I worry about its prospects, just simply because I have a feeling there'll be so many Academy members that'll be like, "Oh, well, it's the Barbie movie."
I
And
totally agree.
so
Yeah.
but at the same time, I don't doubt Greta Gerwig has found something in this story and is going to communicate it in a way that I think is going to resonate with people. Of course, the laughter will help because it'll be an entertaining film, which will hopefully then inspire people to want to see it more than once. That'll help drive the box office. Like all this stuff about like Oppenheimer versus Barbie, it is so unequivocally clear that Barbie's going to outgross Oppenheimer to me.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I agree.
no question in my mind whatsoever. So I don't even think we need to talk about them like facing off. It's not a competition, in my opinion. But in terms of an awards play, I still lean towards Oppenheimer, maybe doing better, just, looking at it on the surface, right?
Yeah, you're talking about what's a more traditional Oscar play versus
Right,
what
right.
could be like one of those surprise contender Oscar
Yeah.
plays.
But at
So
the
yeah,
same
I
time,
think
you got Noah Baumbach co-writing the screenplay.
yep.
Greta Gerwig's past two films both nominated for Best Picture. So yeah, I mean, like the possibilities are all there.
Yeah.
And if she can push it over and get it to that point where it is an across the board contender, like for example, like how is Ryan Gosling? Because everyone was saying that he's such a standout. Did you see any footage that like, prove that to be true?
Well, it's an extended trailer, so what can you judge from that? I mean, he was hilarious. He's definitely playing like the dumb guy, like he's kind of playing the traditional. Forgive the offensive metaphors, but like the traditional dumb blonde role that was so often unfairly attributed to women, and they're intentionally spinning that expectation
Mm-hmm.
and putting it on Ken to highlight this terrible metaphor. And so that's kind of what he's playing. He's ditzy and kind of being dragged along by Barbie. So he looks really funny in the film. Ryan Gosling doing comedy is so underrated. Like, it's
Yeah.
so good. We saw some more of that in another studio's presentation that we'll get to, but yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. Can't wait.
Another more traditional Oscar play here that they showcased was The Color Purple, which I know we've been anticipating for a while. They brought out Oprah, they brought out Blitz, the director, as well as some of the cast: Fantasia, Taraji P. Henson, and Danielle Brooks. And they showcased the first trailer, which I forget, did that release publicly at this point? No.
No.
Okay. It looks stunning. It looks great. I mean, it's
Shot by
shot by
Dan
Dan.
Louston. Yep.
Exactly. I
Yep.
mean, so it's gorgeous. They Oprah really emphasized they're doing this magical realism blend throughout the film. So there were some moments in the trailer that showcased that. The music sounded incredible. I don't know the musical, so forgive me for people who do know the musical. But the song that they're highlighting is Hell No, which Daniel Brooks's character sings. And so they're really highlighting that Daniel Brooks could be this breakout star from the movie. It looks emotional. Fantasia was talking about how it healed her to kind of be in this, as well as being in the stage musical. It looks great. It looks like the real deal. So I think this will be a big hit that could then translate into Oscar love as well.
Really cool. I mean, that definitely is on, I know, a lot of our radars for award season right now. Probably going to be a box office smash too, because we've seen time and time again, usually musicals that get released in that part of the year, they tend to do well. Um, I just can't wait to see what it looks like visually. I am so excited because
Yeah.
Dan Louston, I feel like it's just on fire right now these last couple of years. So
Yeah.
that's gonna be something.
All right, let's fly through the rest of this Warner Brothers one. They did some DC stuff, nothing real new. I kind of expected. I thought James Gunn would be there. His partner Peter Safran was there, and James had a video introduction. They didn't announce much new. They showed us more from Blue Beetle. They did show us the trailer for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Looks like an Aquaman movie. There's not much new there. And that's about it. Of course, showing us the Flash. They showed a trailer for Wonka, which looks pretty interesting. It didn't wow me. I'll say that. It
I was
looked
gonna say you
good.
sound very reserved right
Yeah,
now.
it looked good. Like, I just wouldn't say from what I saw, it didn't blow me over. It looked visually in line with like the Paddington films, like good production design, good visuals. They didn't show it's a musical, but the trailer doesn't have any original music,
Mhm.
which I thought was curious. The biggest thing was they showed an Oompa Loompa for the first time, and it's played by Hugh Grant. He's a tiny Oompa Loompa in a jar. It was pretty funny. That was the highlight of the trailer. So otherwise, yeah, I'm kind of like, all right, let's see what's there. It doesn't look bad by any means, but didn't blow me over. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. But the thing that everybody wanted to know about was Dune Part 2.
Yes.
Yeah, they brought out Denis, Timothy Chalamet, Zendaya, and yes, they highlighted Dune Part 2, which, I mean, it looks phenomenal. What can you
Yeah.
say? It looks incredible.
Ugh.
We saw Florence Pugh, which I know since then some stills have been released showing
Yes.
Florence and showing like a back angle on Austin Butler's character. The trailer definitely shows more. Austin Butler's character looks like kind of wild, very violent, bizarre looking. Like, almost the footage of him, he's so pale that the shots he's in almost look black and white. So
Mhm.
that was really interesting. The trailer really hyped up Paul growing into a leader.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looks incredible. And Denis was really talking about how the first film he described as like a more contemplative film. And he says Dune Part 2 is much more like an action epic. And
Hmm.
the footage really showed some big action. So yeah, it looked incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I no doubt in my mind that that's going to be a visual feast for the eyes for sure. Oh man, other than Killers of the Flower Moon, I like that's probably my most anticipated for this year, especially because I've read the book and I know what's coming. Do you know what's coming based on the book?
Yes. Yes, I
Okay.
do. Yes.
Okay.
So I'm
Yeah.
ready for it. Yeah, I'm
Oh yeah.
excited. And I know they
Did you
keep
get a chance
talking.
to see more Dave Bautista, Stellan Skarsgård, or was it more focused on Austin?
It was more focused on. Oh, it wasn't really focused on Austin. It was focused on Paul
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and Zendaya's character. I forget her name.
Did you get a
But
glimpse of Christopher Walken?
I don't believe we did. Or if we
Mm.
did, I missed it. I don't remember seeing him at all.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think we got glimpses of Dave Bautista and some of the other characters. But really, as far as the new characters, Florence and Austin were the ones we got like legitimate glimpses of.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looks
Any
good.
what was the music? Did it feel like it was new music, trailer music,
I couldn't
pre-existing
say.
music?
I couldn't
Okay.
say. It sounded like Dune. Obviously, it sounded like the same score for in line with the same score. It didn't strike me as new or anything like that, but it could have been. Yeah, but
It
it
did
looks
have
great.
finished VFX. I don't think it would have.
What we saw looked finished. I feel like they're gonna release the trailer pretty soon. So yeah, I think it looked finished. Yeah. Yeah. Judging on because I know they released those stills. My guess is we get the new trailer.
Maybe
Maybe with
next week.
Guardians. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of Guardians, Disney was the next presentation the next day, and so they definitely highlighted a lot of things, kind of similar with how Warner Brothers approached DC. They didn't really mention much new in regards to their Marvel properties. Of course, they teased Guardians with it releasing soon. And also, they showed a new trailer. Oh, no, I'm sorry. They showed the already released trailer for the Marvels. So we got nothing new from Marvel at all. So that was disappointing a little bit. But one thing that they did show new, they showed, like I said already, 20 minutes of Elemental. I had gotten to go to Pixar and see a lot more of Elemental, so that wasn't new for me. But it looks great. I mean, I'm very excited for Elemental. Seems like a very mature story. It's an immigrant story. It deals with even like it's strange. It sounds strange to talk about with a Pixar movie, but like interracial marriage. It's
Water and
very
fire don't mix.
yeah, it is very on the nose. The metaphors are very on the nose
Yeah.
for that exact reason. But I mean, still just tackling those topics in a Pixar movie is heavy. So
And it's
it,
having its world premiere at Cannes, which is
yeah,
where Pete Docter's films premiered. So it does, show a sign of confidence from Pixar in the
yeah,
project. So yeah, I have a feeling that that's going to be pretty massive for them. A lot of people have, reacted divisively towards the trailer that was released. I don't understand why. I feel like this is exactly the type of story that we want Pixar to be telling, as opposed to
yep,
something like Lightyear. So I'm down. I'm all ready
yeah.
for it.
Yeah, the only thing that I think could derail that is if it's so on the nose that
Sure.
that it starts to become a little rote as the film goes on. But I'm in. I'm ready, and I hope that the Cannes premiere is great. So yeah, so that was new. Another animated project that Disney talked about. Well, one thing that Disney highlighted was how this year they have a new release from all 9 of their different labels. Lucasfilm, Pixar, Marvel, Disney Studios, Disney Animation, Fox, and Searchlight. I think I hit them all. And so yeah, so from Disney Animation they have Wish. And the trailer was premiered at CinemaCon and
I
then
love
released
that
the next day.
trailer. Yeah.
Trailer was good. They
I
also
love the animation
showcased.
style that they are doing, the mixture of like the
You know,
2D and the 3D.
I'm actually a little not sold yet on
Hmm.
the animation style. They showed us a clip from the song that they're pushing. I think it's called "This Wish." They showcased the whole sequence where Ariana DeBose's character sings that for the first time. Great song. It's like classic Disney princess stuff.
Sure.
Classic like I'm this world is holding me down. I want to break out. I want to go do
And
other
I want
things.
song. Yeah.
It's an I want song. Um, So that's great. The animation style, because they're going with this kind of storybook feel, kind of like Puss in Boots or other things, but their version of it looked flat to me. Like it looked
Mhm.
like because like all the from what I could see, all the worlds, like the backgrounds they looked 2D, like they looked flat, like
Yeah.
intentionally so. They looked like you would in a storybook, right?
Mhm.
But it made it look just kind of a little bit dull to me, visually dull. So I don't know. We'll see. They announced that Chris Pine is joining the film as King Magnifico. I think he's the big villain. But yeah, we'll see. I like the song. I'm always down for Disney animation. So yeah, we'll see how it turns out. Let's see, another thing they showcase, obviously coming soon is Little Mermaid. So they had Melissa McCarthy there. They showcased her singing what's it called?
Poor
Poor Unfortunate
unfortunate
Souls.
souls.
That's right. They showed that entire sequence. You know, I think it's good. It's good. It's fine. I think Melissa
That's
McCarthy is doing a
code
great
for
job.
it's bad, Howat.
No, my thing is, it doesn't. That's the thing with most of these Disney live action things. Most of them aren't actively bad. They're just kind of there. Like they're just kind of an unnecessary rehash.
I'm gonna
And
hate this. I can tell. I can just tell. You're not selling me. If I was the theater owner right now, I would say we're not programming this straight
we're
to
not
Disney
doing it.
Plus. Yeah.
That's the thing. Like it looks fine. My guess is I'm gonna think the movie is fine and unnecessary. That's my guess for what I'm gonna think about the movie. I'm gonna go into it open mind. I hope that it changes my mind. Halle Bailey looks great. Melissa McCarthy, actually, she seems like she's having a really great time with it, adding like kind of a different flair on Ursula.
Sure.
So we'll see. There's a lot more to see from the film. So that was there. Elsewhere in kind of remakes, but not exactly. They talked about the Haunted Mansion movie. I think it's just called
Mhm.
Haunted Mansion, which they kind of like compare to Pirates of the Caribbean in terms of mythology levels. So I don't know. It looks pretty fun. I'm trying to decide if it's gonna be good or not. The trailer, they kind of showed us an extended clip from it. It looked really funny. It looked like it was leaning into the comedy of it. So I think it could be good. I want to see more, but I was kind of into what they were showing.
I always just think back to the fact that Pirates of the Caribbean was back in 2003. There was still an emphasis on practical sets, and CGI was used for things that you could not achieve within camera. And that had a very peculiar, but also too distinct Johnny Depp performance that nobody had ever seen anything like
Yeah.
before. And so trying to recapture that and taking like another ride and bringing it into the world of Disney and the way that they do these live action projects nowadays. I mean, I it's going to take a lot to sell me on it. So, yep,
That's where I'm at. I
yeah,
totally agree with you. So that's why I'm like coming at it from like a little bit of a distance. Like I liked what they
hmm
showed me. There was nothing bad about what they showed me. I have that same skepticism
right.
toward the project. But I hope it's good. I like Justin Simeon. I'm glad that he's back. I'm glad that he's getting some big budgets. But yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens there. They showcase some Fox projects as well. Trailers that I believe already came out. A Hunting in Venice, they premiered the trailer there, the new Poirot thing.
So funny to watch people like realize without knowing that it's a Hercule Poirot film.
Yeah,
That was hilarious to me. People
I
thought it
was
was like
thinking.
some horror movie,
Yeah,
and
I was thinking the same thing when they were showing the trailer. I was like, I mean, of course, I knew what they were showing because they teased it up. But I was
right,
like, when this trailer shows in a theater, like with no title card beforehand or anything, people are not gonna know what this movie is because they
yeah,
don't show Poirot for quite a ways into the trailer. They're teasing up Michelle Yeoh, and the horror elements are so prominent. That kind of made me more excited than I was for the movie because I was like, oh,
same.
are they actually going?
It's
I mean, I know it's like
especially
PG-13, but
because like I thought the first two films that he's directed are trash, and so
I'm
I
a little bit more kind to those. I thought they were okay. I wasn't wowed by either one of them. But yeah, if they're going a different direction with this, I'm like, hey, all right, let's give it a shot. Yeah.
but then again, it also does feel like a teaser, so it could
Yeah.
just be all style, and then the finished product may have some elements of it, but it could take on still. I'm sure it'll have a different tone, but I'm not looking this as an indication of quality just yet.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's totally fair. Totally fair. The other, well, I think it's a Searchlight film that they highlighted was another trailer that already was released. Next Goal Wins.
That's
Um,
Searchlight, yeah.
I it looks great. It looks
Yeah.
great. It looks like a total crowd pleaser. I totally understand people are a little tired of Taika and tired of his humor. I get it. There was a bit of oversaturation last year.
Mhm.
Um, but his humor works, and especially when it's on small scale like this. Like this feels like his small scale movies. And so I'm really into it. I think this is going to be great. I think I'm very much anticipating this movie.
Yeah, like the trailer, really like that it is kind of a step back in a way towards the smaller scale projects that he made his name with in the beginning. Doesn't look like he's trying to outdo what he's done before. It just feels like a back to basics movie, but in that regard, the screenplay also feels extremely formulaic. Like I can already tell you how this movie's going to exactly play
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So you are kind of hoping that Fassbender, the humor, and whatever quirks Taika brings to it stylistically, even though it does look like it's toning those elements down, you hope that it's enough to charm you and win you over by the end. And because it is, like you said, designed to be a crowd pleaser, it's just to what extent, or are you
Yeah.
going to call it phony and say it hit the missed the mark?
Yeah.
I do like I've seen a lot of people reacting to the use of from the loser of the Academy Award for Best Picture for Jojo Rabbit. I've
I
seen some
like it.
people I thought it was a smart idea, but also at the same time, I did like because I do think it's funny, but at the same time, like both ideas can coexist at the same time. I think it's funny, but I also recognize there are so many people who think he undeservedly won adapted screenplay for Jojo Rabbit, and saying that you're a loser for that movie when in fact you were the Oscar winner for screenplay for that same movie, I can totally understand where people are coming from there. So
Yeah, totally. And I also think that that was 100% marketing as opposed to Taika. Like, I think some people are
yeah, yeah.
like acting like Taika made this decision himself. I'm like, no, he didn't. He probably had nothing to do with this idea.
I
So
mean, you never know. Maybe he does have some say
he
over
might,
like
he
what
might.
the final trailer, they bring it to him beforehand. Hey, here's the trailer. What do you think? And if he has no notes,
Sure, sure, totally.
but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
So the other things that they teased here, two more things. They showed us an extended, I don't know how long it was, but it seemed like a very long sequence from Indiana Jones, a big action sequence, chase sequence. It looks so good. I know
Is
some
that the
people are
one
on
where
the
they're in
edge.
the streets with the cars and the
Yes.
yeah, 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 yeah. That looks like a great scene in the trailer.
It looks it is so good. Like I've heard some people worry about like kind of CGI onslaught, especially from the fourth entry in the franchise. Man, it's James Mangold. Of course, there's tons of visual effects, but it looks so good. It looks mostly practical, and of course, there's tons of visual effects, but it
I was
looks
gonna say
mostly
Mangold is
practical.
not a visual effects heavy director. He's a visual
Exactly.
effects enhancer. Like he uses it
Yes.
to enhance the story that he's telling. He doesn't use it
Exactly.
to cover his mistakes.
Yep. This felt funny. It felt engaging. Some creative like direction. Some with the car chase and the way they're outrunning some of the people who are chasing him. It was great.
I
I'm
mean, like,
so
would you
on
go so
board.
far as to say that if you didn't know it was James Mangold, would you go so far as to say it felt like it was Steven Spielberg all over again?
Sure. Yeah, I think he's taking up the mantle really well. I think he's using the same the appropriate tone, which is like a little irreverent, a little funny,
Mhm.
but still feeling a little bit epic at the same time.
Yep.
I'm very excited for the movie. I think it looks great, and this extended clip really reinforced that.
Couple more
Um,
days till its world premiere again.
Exactly. And the last thing I wanted to highlight was maybe the most surprising thing from any of the presentations, just because it was so unexpected, was a trailer for The Creator.
Mhm.
This is from Gareth Edwards, which, first of all, how has he not directed another movie since Rogue One? This is his first movie since Rogue One. Um, the trailer looked stunning. I mean, it looked really good. It just kind of came out of nowhere. It's John David Washington. Who else stars in it? Gemma Chan stars in it. It's like this sci-fi drama. We didn't get a lot of story. I don't exactly know. I think it's about John David Washington's character kind of like transporting a child who kind of looks like a robot. I don't know. But it looks really dramatic. It looked gorgeous. The footage looked incredible. Literally when the trailer ended, you could hear like wows throughout the auditorium. Everybody was like, "Oh, whoa, what is that? Whoa!"
Yeah.
Um, So it comes out September 29th. Looks great. So yeah, I want to see more just because I don't know that much about the movie, but it was a really good trailer that really just kind of caught us all off guard.
That's exciting. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
glad that they can still have like the elements of surprise a little bit with something that I had heard about this project, but I didn't know like too much about it. So yeah, to hear like that kind of buzz coming out of CinemaCon for this, like that's a good way to get your ball rolling before you officially release the trailer. Maybe there's a TIFF world premiere involved. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited. So that's Disney. Moving on to the next one. I forgot to mention Disney also premiered the Boogeyman,
Hmm.
the horror movie. It's a Stephen King horror movie. I liked it a lot. I thought it was great. It's a little traditional. It's a traditional horror movie, but it's done very well. Spooky. I couldn't tell. I think it's going to be rated R. There's not like it would only be for like language. Like it's not
I was gonna
very. It's
say
not.
how many F bombs?
Yeah, I don't even remember.
Any gore? Any blood?
A little bit. That's why I'm not positive what the
Hmm.
rating will be. I think it's R rated, but it's like a soft R. This isn't like a gruesome horror
Sure.
movie. But it was good. I enjoyed it a lot. Sophie Thatcher is great. Very, very good. She's the lead of the film. And she's wonderful. Christmas scene is great. Some really creative scares, lots of jump scares, afraid of the dark sort of stuff. So, like I said, it's a little bit traditional, but it's good. It's good at what it's doing. So I enjoyed it a lot.
Nice.
So yeah, so that was Disney. Moving on to Universal. Universal had a very big presentation. I believe it was the longest presentation of CinemaCon because they just kept going with what they were announcing. So I'll just try to fly through it. They opened with Christopher Nolan. He was the first one he was the first special guest to step out, and they introduced more footage from Oppenheimer. He was talking about how they filmed it in full IMAX. He joked, he said, shot it in full IMAX, both in color and black and white. And it's a crowd of theater owners, so you can imagine if they hear black and white, they're like freak out because black and white movies probably don't gross that much. But so he said, not too much black and white, don't worry, is what he said. So yeah, it looks, it looks spectacular. What can I say? I wouldn't say that the footage revealed a lot of new stuff, but it was a lot more story driven than the previous trailers we've seen, really highlighting Oppenheimer as a character and what he's going through. And we got a lot of glimpses at new characters that I don't believe we had seen before. Like Florence Pugh was in there, a lot of Emily Blunt, Benny Safdie was really prominent in this trailer. Robert Downey Jr. as well. So, it looks great, but you already know that. It looks great. Yeah, not a lot new, but he definitely got us very excited for it, for sure. So that was a big one. Elsewhere, another movie that's probably going to be a big hit was Fast X. And let me tell you, the presentation is unlike anything. It was like surrealist art. What I was watching, because at first it was totally fine. Michelle Rodriguez, Jordana Brewster, Tyrese Gibson, and Sung Kang came out and were kind of like recapping the history of the franchise. It was all well and good. I'm not the biggest Fast and Furious fan, but it was all well and good. And then they introduced the family man himself, Vin Diesel, came out. Matt, that man has no self-awareness at all. All respect to Vin Diesel. Look, he's got a great career. He's very successful. Good for him. So no disrespect. But what in the world was that man talking about? He was just going on and on. The press section was dying laughing. He was so serious. He was comparing the theater owners in the crowd to soldiers on the front lines. And not like in a jokey way, but it was like in a deadly serious, like, you're soldiers on the front lines of entertainment. It was so
Wait,
strange.
entertainment or keeping cinema alive?
I don't know, man. I don't know. And then he, at one point, he starts celebrating the Fast franchise, and he starts saying, "This is exactly what he did." He said, and he took a long pause after this. He said, "It's the longest running franchise ever." And then he just stops talking. And everybody in the press section is going, "What are you talking about? It's just not." And like audible, like explosion of laughter in the press section. And then he kept talking and said, with the same actors playing the same characters. which I mean gives me more pause, but even still, that's just not true under any version of the math. I don't know what he was talking about, but it was nonsense.
He's been
And
always
then
like, every time he has one of these new films comes out, he does his best to try and sell it. Like it's not only dude, it's not enough to just say this is the best film of the summer. This is like the best
I'm so
action
excited
film you'll
for
see
it.
this year. Yeah, like no, he has to take it a step further and say we should be nominated for best picture. This is the greatest film of all
You know,
time.
I am blown away that he didn't actually say that. He didn't actually say anything about winning Best Picture. I was expecting it the whole entire time. He did. He was like making fun of the Oscars, kind of like he was saying that he was like talking about being on the CinemaCon stage and saying like, I'd much rather be here than on stage at the Oscars because without you people, we wouldn't have the Oscars. It's like, you're right. I mean, it just felt so strange. Like it felt
Yeah.
like he thought he was delivering a speech to the UN, like in terms of importance. Like it was surreal. It was so surreal. Every joke, like it's one thing to see the jokes and see the interview clips and stuff like that out of context. Seeing it with my own eyes was insane. I will never forget that as long as I live. The movie looks fine. I mean, they showed a trailer and the movie looks fine. I'm not the biggest fan of the franchise, but I'm sure fans of the franchise will be satisfied with what's coming. But yeah, the presentation was wild. Let's move it along here. They also, Universal Horror is a big thing, so they were celebrating the success of Megan. David Gordon Green and Jason Blum came out and they teased The Exorcist Believer. So it's the first of 3 films, so they're teasing
Did Imagine
another.
Dragons like play their song like over the footage?
No, they did not, thankfully. The trailer was pretty good. Trailer was great. It looks really spooky, really scary. It looks high quality. Leslie Odom Jr. is the star, and they're bringing back Ellen Burstyn. This time it's 2 little girls who are possessed by the same demon. Yeah, it looks super scary, super good. So, I know there were kind of mixed reactions, especially to the last 2 Halloween movies. So that's the only reason that's the only thing that gives me a little pause. I thought the trailer looked very good. So I'm definitely excited for that.
I'm nervous as hell about this because The Exorcist is
Totally.
my favorite horror film of all time. It's one of my favorite films of all time, period. So I'm scared, but
Yeah.
for different reasons and not the reasons that I'm sure they want me to be scared.
Right.
It's genuinely terrifying to me. And
Totally.
it's not that I don't have confidence that they can, come out the other side of this with something of quality. It's just I I just hold the original in such reverence, and it's almost like sacrilegious to even try. So,
Sacrilegious. The Exorcist
oh
feels
my
like.
god.
Anyway,
Okay.
so so in the complete opposite direction, Universal spent a lot of time talking about animation, and so obviously pretty much everybody who took the stage, every executive I should say who took the stage, celebrated the success of Super Mario. It was the magic word. If there was a drinking game, people would have died because they just kept talking about Mario the whole time. But they had Chris Melandandri who came out to say to introduce a new look at Migration, Illumination's next movie. It looks kind of like a departure for them. Like it just usually they're really focused on like hyper cuteness, and this one is all about ducks who, yes, they're cute, but it just looks a little bit different. It looks good. The trailer was good. Kumail Nanjiani and somebody else, Elizabeth Banks, play the parents in a duck family who are afraid of migrating, and then they get stuck in New York City and hijinks ensue. Looks cute. Looks good. For fans of Illumination, I think that'll be great. And then the other animated movie that they really promoted was Trolls Band Together. It's the 3rd Trolls movie. Anna Kendrick and Justin Timberlake came out and promoted that. They had a great back and forth. They showed a very rough trailer, very like extended trailer, because I know a trailer is already out, but like the extended trailer was in a very rough cut version of it. But yeah, I mean, it looks good for what Trolls is, so a lot of good music. It looks like it should be pretty funny, and they definitely took time to kind of highlight, remember Trolls World Tour was the movie that kicked off the whole $20 rentals for new releases. That was
Yeah.
the first one. And that kicked off a whole big deal of the fight between the movie theaters and Universal. Like, it was a big deal. And so Justin Timberlake kind of referenced that and was talking about that and saying how thrilled they are to be back in theaters. They're not with the theater owners in the crowd. They didn't want to take any chances there. So,
Right.
so yeah, it looks good. Moving right along, Focus Features was also part of this presentation, and so they highlighted stuff like My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3. They highlighted Asteroid City, which we've of course seen lots from. Nothing new there really, but they're very excited for Asteroid City. They talked about how the specialty film market recovered even better at the box office than the regular box office, which I thought was interesting. But the things that I was very excited for were two films, The Holdovers and Drive Away Dolls, two potential Oscar contenders there. Alexander Payne's The Holdovers stars Paul Giamatti, Divine Joy Randolph. It looks great. It looks like a kind of like old school crowd pleaser, lots of comedy, lots of like emotional drama with like a young kid. I'm so into it. It looks like right up my alley. So I'm highly anticipating this movie, and hopefully, maybe it's Payne's return to the Oscars. They do love Alexander Payne. He just kind of hit a speed bump there with.
I would say he hit more
of
of a speed road bump, given that there are some allegations against him. But
that's true.
I'm excited for Paul Giamatti.
Yeah, Paul Giamatti looks great. Divine Joy Randolph looks great. So we'll see what happens there.
Yep.
And then the next one is Ethan Cohen's solo feature debut, Drive Away Dolls.
I can't get over that these two are separated.
I know it's really weird.
It hurts.
It does. It's so strange. But
if that means though that we can get more films because they're on opposite schedules, then maybe I'm all for it. So.
Right. It looks like classic Coen brothers, even though there's only one of them this time. It's like dark crime caper, very funny, lots of violence. Margaret Qualley and Geraldine Viswanathan look great. It looks great. It looks really good. It looks leaning into the comedy. The trailer really leans into the comedy. But yeah, I think people are gonna really like it. Big energy.
And you're telling me it looks like a Coen Brothers movie, so I'm trying to imagine because once again they're separated. You're talking about the comedy. Does this look like it really is? If you had to compare it to the tone and vibe of another Coen Brothers film, you would
Burn
say
After Reading. Burn After Reading is what I would compare it to.
Realm.
Where it's definitely very funny, but there's still a lot of a lot of crime and stuff going on. Maybe higher energy. I think Burnout even higher energy than that one. It feels young, it feels female driven, which is kind of newish for the Coen brothers. I'm trying to think, have they had a female led film? I'm trying to even think.
But I mean, I hear what you're saying, because also too they do a lot of ensemble work and stuff. So yeah.
Totally. So that is coming, and it looks great. They also, so that was it for Focus. But the two big future things, not 2023, that Universal teased, and I'll make it quick here. I know we're running short on time, but the Fall Guy looks great. David Leitch brought out all of his stunt crew and everything, and then brought out Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt to tease this movie about stuntman, and it looks phenomenal. It looks so fun. It looks kind of in the vein of The Nice Guys, sort of. And yeah, I was really into it. I thought it looks really, really good.
Now, David Leitch is directing this one?
He is directing this one. Yep. And it looks like a celebration of stunts, stunt people. Yeah, it looks great.
That's cool. I'm all for it then.
And then the last one, and the thing that drove the most online conversation, was showing us an entire behind-the-scenes featurette for Wicked, both Wicked movies, I suppose. First one doesn't come out till Thanksgiving 2024, and second one is Christmas 2025. So we're very far away from these movies. I'm also
still kind of baffled that we're getting two movies out of this. I don't know how I feel about that.
I completely agree with you, but all I can tell you is the footage looked great. It was kind of underscored by Defying Gravity, so we heard a lot of Defying Gravity from both stars. It looks great. There weren't finished vis effects, so it was very behind the scenes. A lot of green screens in there. But they did highlight how they really built these massive sets like that aren't green screen. John Chu said something about planting 9 million real tulips for some of this, Munchkin land. So it looks great. It looks really good. So I am very excited for that one, and can't wait. So moving into the final, I'm sorry, it's not the final presentation, but the second major presentation,
I was
or
gonna
last major
say, yeah.
presentation, is Paramount. And so we had they hyped Ninja Turtles, which looks very good. I'm very
I
excited
still
for
have not
that.
watched the trailer for that, for the record.
It looks good.
Yeah,
It's a teen.
I need to like, because honestly, when I first heard about it, I thought it was like another one of those Michael Bay like kind
Right,
of
right.
Teenage Mutant Turtle thing, so I kind of just ignored it. Now I've heard it's a Seth Rogen production,
Yep.
and that does have me a lot more interested because I very much like what he has brought to like other well-known properties,
Yes.
especially like in the pop like culture sort of realm, especially like comic book related or anything like that. So yeah, I need to watch this trailer. I need to
It's
see
fully
more.
animated. It's not a live
Mhm.
action movie. It's fully animated, and the animation looks great. It's very much in
Oh,
style of like Puss in Boots and Spider Verse. It's like a comic book come to life, like for real,
yeah.
and it looks great. So I am very excited for that one. Very stylized, very good. They also brought out Stephen Cable Jr. and Anthony Ramos and Dominic Fishback for Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. Which it looks like a Transformers movie. What can I say? They did highlight
Minus
how
Michael Bay.
minus Michael Bay, which is notable.
Because
They did
honestly,
highlight
Bumblebee was pretty surprisingly good. So if they
and
can, continue that, I mean,
Cable made sure to reference that this takes place just a couple of years after that. So I'm sure there will be some sort of connection there. They didn't really say, but it looks good. And they highlighted how Cable made sure to really highlight that they shoot on real locations, not green screen sets, things like that. And you can tell that. I mean, obviously so many visual effects in the
yeah.
trailers for these movies, but the locations do look real, which I think is a step up from what we see in some other franchises these days. So that was good. And they also announced an animated Transformers movie called Transformers One. It's coming out with Chris Hemsworth voicing Optimus Prime and Brian Tyree Henry voicing Megatron. So that's kind of cool. And it's directed by Josh Cooley, who won the Oscar for Toy Story 4. So that's interesting. Announced a lot of other animated movies. A new Avatar: The Last Airbender movie. Didn't show us anything from that. Talk about Paw Patrol 2, so my kids are thrilled. But some of the things that were really exciting, of course, everyone wanted to know about Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yep.
It looks phenomenal. I mean, it just looks phenomenal.
I mean,
What
we
can
all
I say?
lost our collective minds when they just simply released new still images from it because we've had that one still image for God knows how long. So, I mean, we were freaking out over that. I can't imagine what it was like just seeing, actual footage from the damn thing. Here's my big question. This is what's been bothering me about this movie so much is that The Irishman had the de-aging, right? So it was very obvious to see where the production budget went towards with The Irishman. What does Killers of the Flower Moon have that's costing $200 million?
Yeah, I can't answer that, but the trailer did showcase big production design, huge sets. It's a western, so it's all big locations that don't exist, right? So they had to build a lot of these things.
Mm-hmm.
So it showed massive scale on that level. So that's really the only answer I've got for you. And it just looked really good. So
What Rolling Stone song was the trailer set to?
I don't think there was one. I don't actually remember the music to the trailer. I was so focused on the visuals. But it looked amazing. The cast looks so good. Jesse Plemons has a really funny line.
Does anybody have like a quote unquote like Oscar clip in the trailer or?
Not in the trailer that I saw. Scorsese was there and he really teased Lily Gladstone's performance. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling very good about her role there. It just looks, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, Scorsese's never done a Western, right? I think this is his first Western. So I'm excited to see it. It feels like, I don't want to make the wrong comparison, but it kind of feels like The Departed in the Western. Like, it's very much his classic crime, like Goodfellas, like
Yeah.
crime drama, but a Western. And so like high energy, big scale, big scope. So I was really into it. I was really, really into it. So I'm excited. Very excited. So that's obviously their biggest Oscar contender, but they did introduce another one, and that is Bob Marley One Love. They announced the name for the first time there and showed us a trailer. It looks great. Ziggy Marley was there to introduce it. Kingsley Benadir plays Bob Marley. Looks perfect. Looks so good. Directed by Ronaldo Marcus Green, who just won Will Smith an Oscar. So
Yeah.
this could be the real deal, music biopic. It's hard to bet against music biopics, and this is somebody who doesn't get as much attention as some of the other music biopics we've gotten these days.
He
So
also did that movie though with Mark Wahlberg.
he did, yeah,
Joe,
whatever that was called, Joe
whatever,
Bell,
some
Joe Bell.
yeah, and it's like
Uh, yeah.
I am wondering after coming off of King Richard, like, is he gonna have another hit on that scale again, or is this going to be, um, it could be like the Whitney Houston biopic we just saw recently, where they
Yeah.
release it at the end of the year and they kind of just dump it, and
The thing is, we
may
knew
not
that
result.
Whitney Houston movie was going to be a bomb because they refused to show us anything from it for so long.
Hmm.
They knew they had a stinker on their hands.
But didn't
So
they announce that this is coming out like in January?
it is January 14th or something like that. But it's obvious that they're going to do, somebody was asking me, do you think they'll do a qualifying run? Of course they will.
I mean,
Like,
of course
of
they will, but
course.
I mean, also too, Kingsley Benadir is not necessarily a huge draw as of
You're
yet.
right.
So,
He
you
does
know,
have Secret Invasion, which comes out earlier than that, which, I mean,
yeah,
it's a Marvel movie. Everyone's in the Marvel movies these days, but it'll kind of get his name a little bit more out there.
yeah.
So that's kind of good timing for him, I think. And he should have been nominated for One Night in Miami, in my opinion. And I think he was probably close-ish
I mean,
to
he was
getting
my
that
favorite
nomination.
performance in that movie. So,
I completely agree. So yeah, I'm very anticipating. I'm very much anticipating that, and think it looks really good. And then last, well, not last, but John Krasinski came out on stage to showcase two things: A Quiet Place Day One. We saw the trailer for that. It looks like a Quiet Place movie, and I mean that in a good way. It looks
yeah,
really good. Looks thrilling. It
Michael
shows.
Sarnowski is directing it,
Yep,
director of Pig. So, that
absolutely.
alone right there is enough for me. I know that you've got Lupita Nyong'o in
Yep,
it, who is just so reliable. I have no doubt that this is going to be decent, even if
yep.
Krasinski is not directing this one. Hell, that might even make it better.
Yeah, yeah. It looks great. Yeah, there's not much. Like it doesn't feel like there's not this new thing that it showed. It just looks like a Quiet Place movie. I love the Quiet Place movies. So yeah, we'll see how that turns out. I'm excited for that. And then the last thing he showcased is a movie I believe coming next year, and it is his next directorial feature called If. It's very much a family film. He explicitly said that. And he compared it in the mold of E.T. and Willy Wonka, and he admitted those are huge, huge shoes to fill. And they showed like kind of a rough cut behind the scenes featurette, showcasing it's all about imaginary friends coming to life. I think that's why it's called If, Imaginary Friends, If. And so Ryan Reynolds in the clip talked about like compared it to a live action Pixar film, which is
Mm,
pretty incredible. So it looks funny, it looks cute. I'm excited for it. It's a little hard to tell by a rough cut because we couldn't really see the imaginary friends who are going to be animated. Couldn't
right.
exactly get a feel for them, but it looks cute. So hopefully that turns out well. And then finally, from Paramount, they highlighted Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. They showed us, like I said, a 20-minute sequence. It looks great. It looks so good. I am
Does it? You said that a couple times now. Things look great.
Yes, yes, they do.
How
They do look
to
great.
what degree of great are we talking at this point for Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning?
Oh, I mean, the action is just stunning. It's as stunning as you expect from the Mission
Yeah,
Impossible
because
sequence.
here's the thing. I really thought Fallout was like a peak, a new
Oh,
height for that franchise.
100%.
I haven't seen anything yet in this that has given me confidence that this is going to be better. It looks just like more of the same.
I don't think the clip that we saw would probably change your mind on that. The clip
Okay.
that we saw was highlighted comedy, honestly, more than a lot. It was kind of this escape sequence with Ethan Hunt and Haley Atwell's character, and where they have to escape to do this kind of car chase thing. Very funny, great staging, great action, like great
Mm,
direction. But it's in terms of Mission Impossible, it's a smaller scale action sequence, right? It's just a car chase as opposed to some big crazy thing. And so, but it looked great. I mean, it was engaging, funny, fun, like had big laughs, as well as some really tense things. And we saw Palm Clementiff's character. She's a assassin, looked crazy, looked great. She fits the franchise perfectly. So I'm excited. Yeah, they didn't showcase any huge, massive, big scale stuff, but it feels like it fits right in with the franchise, and I love the franchise. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, no. I mean, I hope they can go out on a high note, even though this is part one, but if they can whet the appetite and get us ready for part two, I mean, then they can go out on a high note.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's it for Paramount. And then finally, we had Lionsgate, which there's not much to talk about. They were short and sweet. They really were anchored by a screening of Joyride, which was hilarious. Very much a new Bridesmaids. I know everybody keeps saying that. There's no better comparison. It's a new Bridesmaids. Like it's great. And so they brought the cast out for that. So that was fun. And then they showcased the new trailer, which released like seconds later for the new Hunger Games movie, The Ballad of Songbirds and
Which
Snakes.
I actually was surprised by. It looked much better than I thought it was going to be.
It looks great. It looks very grounded. Like I expected a CGI fest. I expected it to look like
the production design looked really stellar throughout.
Yep.
I'm not a YA person, but I've always appreciated the Hunger Games' more dramatic heft that it brings to that world. And yeah, some of the dialogue sounds a little hokey at times, but like you have Viola Davis, Peter Dinklage selling it, and they can sell any dialogue pretty much and make it
Peter
sound
Dinklage
good.
is great in that trailer. He really is. Yeah.
And so Jason Schwartzman as younger Stanley Tucci is like such
great
brilliant casting. Yeah.
So good. So good. And Rachel Ziegler, Tom Blythe, they look great. So yeah, there's really not much else to say because you've all seen the trailer. So that was it. They really didn't showcase almost anything else. They just kind of
great if they would have said, John Wick Chapter 5, we're thinking about it, but
theirs was easily the fastest presentation. Truly, it was a Lionsgate executive standing up there and kind of just reading through a list of their movies and showing like a poster. That was it. I mean, they got some good movies coming out. The Blackening looks funny. White Bird looks like a family film. It looks good. I don't even remember what else they talked about because it was just not very memorable. It was very much Hunger Games, Joyride, the end. So that's pretty much it, man. That was CinemaCon. So it's like an overload. And I didn't even mention 99% of the stars that were there. It was crazy how many stars are there. Rihanna, I didn't even mention Rihanna was there. I mean, so many people were there. It was kind of crazy, but lots of good movies to look forward to. So yeah, all in all, it was an awesome first CinemaCon experience.
I mean, it sounds like a lot, but also at the same time, too, like I was saying earlier, it must be bizarre to sit through like all these presentations and just get teased throughout for an entire week and not be given like the full full course meal. You just getting like these appetizers. Appetizers can still be good though, and I'm really excited based on a lot of the stuff that we've said here. There are some things I'm still a little trepidatious about, but also at the same time, like I feel that this experience every year, it's always a great way to get everyone buzzing. And then of course they release some trailers during the week, other trailers will come in the days ahead, but then by the time that happens, we'll be midway through the summer getting ready then for the fall film festivals, and there's a few Oscar contenders in there like you said too. So much to look forward to, much to anticipate. Daniel, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to walk us through your experience. It sounds like it was extremely memorable.
Absolutely was. Yeah, I'm glad to do it. Thanks to everyone who followed along. Had a great time.
Yeah, and thank you so much for the daily coverage that you provided while you were there too. A lot of people were very appreciative of that over at Next Best Picture. So
for sure.
All right. Well, tell everyone that's listening right now where they can find you on the internet.
You can find me on Twitter at HowatDK. It's HOWATDK.
Please give them a follow, people, and you can find me at Next Best Picture. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching us here at the Next Best Picture YouTube channel, and we will see you all next time.